years old. Coming from a line of 3 generations of educators, that's probably not so hard to believe. Reading opened my mind to whole new worlds through books like my childhood favorite, Bread and Jam for Francis, and magazines like Ebony Jr. While I enjoyed reading these books, I do believe that the best part about reading was devouring the letters that were sent to me by my mother's childhood best friend, Aunt Barbara. When I received these letters from Aunt Barbara, I tore into them excitedly, and she was just bringing me up to speed on normal things in her life, like the activities of her children, the antics of her 2 dogs, Sam and Samson, and life in general in Alexandria, Virginia. While I enjoyed reading all of that, I do understand that the letters had another purpose. Those letters cemented a relationship that was born decades before I was. And quite simply put, those letters let me know that I mattered. So while I enjoyed reading letters as a child, I thought that I would pass on the same joy to my own children. I'm an educator who is a parent and also a writer. So of course, my children were gifted with personalized stationery from as early as they could write. I hope that they too would spread joy to other people, pen pals, teachers, etc., through the letters that they would share with them as well. I've always held that reading letters is a beautiful thing, but what I really have enjoyed is writing letters. There are 2 types of letters that I really enjoy writing. The first is the annual letter that I write to myself. I began this practice on January 1st of 2017, and I have continued it every New Year's Day since then. I do not begin a new letter without reading last year's letter. And every time I read one of last year's letters, I am so excited to chart my personal growth. Writing letters to myself has given me a front row seat in the personal show of my personal growth. And I gratefully and graciously arrive at each showing as I pour through the letters and recognize the relationships I have valued through the years, friendships that have become more and more important to me over time, as well as looking at my children's personal, developmental, educational, and social growth. All of those things have been very, very important to me, and I have shown up, as I said, for the showing every time I read a new letter to myself. While those are important to me, another type of letter I find to be equally important. It's the letter that I write to my students at the start of every new semester. I've been writing these letters to my students, and I don't recycle them at all every semester for at least 25 years. I know, we can't believe I've been teaching that long, right? So as I've been writing these letters to my students, I've been just reflecting on some of the new thoughts that swirl at the beginning of the new semester. Writing these letters to my students was a brainchild that I got so many years ago, about 3 decades ago, approximately, when I sat down at my parents' computer in their basement, and I was armed with a newly minted master's degree. I decided that I wanted to invest in my students by doing this. I'm very proud to say that as a 4th-generation educator, I am tapping into the passion felt by Mary McLeod Bethune, who is the founder of Bethune-Cookman College. While I have not had to tap into Aunt Mary's fortitude and tenacity, as she founded the college in Daytona Beach, Florida, I have tapped into the same passion that she has felt along the way in educating these children. So for me, writing these letters was a way of connecting with them in times when they really needed it most. So when I sat down with this idea of writing letters to my students, I used one of those paper clip art. Remember clip art, don't we? paper clip art borders. And in writing the letters, I just included important things that I thought my students needed to know. I shared with them the fact that I was duty-bound in educating them. I shared with them the fact that I had been teaching since I was 21 years old at a private school right outside of Philadelphia, where many of my students learned differently. I shared with them that it was very, very important that I pour into them because I wanted them to be the best that they could possibly be. But one thing that I did learn along that way is that until they know how much you care, students don't care how much you know. So what that meant for me very early on was that I had to show that I was invested in their growth, invested in their development, invested in their education. Writing letters to them was a beautiful way of showing that. Campbell Soup, former CEO, Douglas Conant, famously said that the action is in the interaction. His interaction included sitting down and handwriting about 20 letters to his staff every single day. The staff felt his passion and felt his interest in what he was trying to convey in what they were doing. 10 years and nearly 30,000 letters later, they still smile and remember fondly the connection that they made with the CEO of the company, who could have done a lot of other things instead with his time. I would also hear, well, I really still don't know what to write or what to share about you. That's fine as well. Then I started getting letters like, you know, you taught my auntie or my uncle or my mom, which made me feel a lot like this gentleman right here. So, although I like to say that I've always done magnificently well in teaching students, thousands of students over the years, that wouldn't be honest. There is one time, at least one time, that I fumbled in a large way, and that is with a student who I will call Elle. Elle was an incredibly bright young lady. She had a sharp, quick tongue, and I looked forward to being able to help shape her on the path to becoming an attorney. One thing about Elle, though, is that she had no patience, and one time she was not so happy with what she thought I was implying with her, and she said something that really amounted to a threat. In this post-Columbine zero-tolerance atmosphere in America, I reported the threat, and Elle was consequently suspended. When she was on her way back, my principal asked me to sit in on her reinstatement hearing. And I gladly complied because I wanted to welcome Elle back to school and welcome her back to my classroom. As I sat in her reinstatement hearing, everything unfolded before me. Her father pounced on me verbally, attacking me and insulting me. And I looked at the mother, and she sat with her hands crossed and her eyes on the floor. Then I looked at Elle, this sharp, bright, beautiful young lady with tears streaming down her face. I passed her a box of tissues, and I determined that I was going to pour into that little girl. And that's what I started doing. I would write her a little note and sit it on the corner of her desk every day when she came in. To my knowledge, she didn't even read them. She never said anything about them for 2 weeks. And then one day, the class before hers left a little bit late, and I didn't get a chance to make my way over to Elle's desk to put the note there. At the end of her class, she said in a very agitated way to me, as we were the only people in the room, "Where's my note?" I ran to my desk and I grabbed the note, which I had for her, but just didn't have enough time to put it on the desk for her, and I handed it to her. She looked at me, took it, and walked out. But I stood behind the desk doing such a happy dance and such a happy cry. I was connecting, and that made me feel so very good. The thing about writing letters to students and having them write back is that they are actually, in their letters, enlisting me as an accountability partner. Like vision boards and scales and other goals, these letters help by cementing their plans as they're written down. And as we go through the course of the semester, I try to remind the students of these goals that they have written to me in their letters. I try to make sure that they are not missing the mark too much. I try to make sure that they understand that they do have power and that there's power that begins in a pen. Over the years, I have gotten some of their beautiful letters back, and I've collected them along with my own, into my 7th book, which is called, appropriately, Somebody Help Me Find My Chalk, Please. And in collecting these letters, what I'm actually doing is cementing these beautiful personal little forms of communication. Writing letters is a wonderful way for us to interact with each other. Writing letters is a wonderful way for us to share parts of our lives without making any requests. Writing letters is a beautiful way of connecting in 2024, just as it was when I was a child in 1976. Signing off with the best of my intentions, I am Nicole Bailey Williams.